Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl I Love, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I have a very interesting and fascinating guest for you today. Her name is Mindy Ruddock. She is an intuitive woman's wellness coach and healer, a certified yoga instructor, dancer, makes me feel good, mom, and even better, a martial artist. She is an owner, instructor, and student, and black belt in Nick Serio's Kenpo Karate, and a self-proclaimed witchy woman who likes to talk about all things magical and mystical. Mindy is also a plant lover, gardener, and finder of magic. What else can she do? Mindy, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me today.
So movement and activity has always been a really big part of your life. And that's kind of what launched you, I'm thinking, on this path to where you are right now. So tell us about that. How did that start?
Movement is, other than English, the other language that I'm fluent in.
Aww.
I'm a mover through and through. I began my moving journey. I started dancing at 5 years old. I was that, have you ever seen the meme of the little girl hanging upside down from the ballet bar?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That was me. Mm-hmm. I was the energetic little one. My parents got me involved with dance to kind of help me find my outlet, help me find my release. And it became such a part of me that I went on and I earned my bachelor's degree in dance from Franklin Pierce University. And it just is in everything I do. I'm also a licensed massage therapist, and that my movement background with my massage background, I feel helps me get a little deeper and more involved with what my clients might be doing to create what is going on. Movement and I just get along, except if I'm walking down the street, then I might just trip over my own 2 feet. But
isn't that funny? I really think that is a characteristic of dancers that a lot of people don't know. So I'm going to share a really deep, dark secret, is that dancers can move so beautifully with such elegance and grace and ease, and they can just as easily fall flat on their face.
If there's music playing, I can be graceful. No music, I trip and fall.
There you go. One of my teachers told me a long time ago, it was because we're so trained to be able to lift our head and look up and look beyond, like into the horizon, that we don't even pay attention to what's right underneath our feet.
Nope, not at all.
So in this movement and this activity, I find it very interesting. First, I want to ask you, with that bachelor's in dance, where did that take you? Did you go into teaching or performing, or what was that journey like?
I actually taught for quite some time. I'm born and raised in Massachusetts. For some reason, I got the idea to move out to Ohio, and I taught dance for about 1.5 years in Ohio. And it was one of the most amazing dance teaching experience I ever had. Ohio is very different than Massachusetts when it comes to competition and things like that. I taught for probably a good 10 years. And then unfortunately, in a class one day, I landed a tour jeté while I was teaching, and I tore my calf muscle.
Oh.
I felt and heard the pop happen.
Oh.
Tried to distinguish if it was a break, but then I realized there's no bone where that happened. And unfortunately, that was the end of my dance teaching. But within a couple months of that, I had started massage school. So it began the whole wellness side of my journey. So as devastating and as difficult as it was to say to my husband, I can't dance again. I mean, technically I could.
Yeah.
Both my sons were very young. They were 8 months and 2 years old. And getting injured with small children, you don't heal. You don't have the ability to just do nothing. Like when I was injured in college, I just did nothing.
Yeah.
But with kids, I can't do that. I still need to work my other job to bring money in. And so unfortunately, I left the dance world behind. And for a long time, I was very heartbroken. I wouldn't even, I couldn't even bring myself to move in that way anymore. I couldn't bring myself. I used to do I think we've all done this when I'm working out. I just do ballet bar workouts. And for the longest time, I couldn't even bring myself to do it. And actually what it took is one day I was at the karate school all by myself. I locked the door, I cranked the music, and I just moved. And it was probably a good 5 years in between.
Wow.
And I just felt that wall come down. I kind of felt myself returning back to myself. And that's where the finding of magic kind of comes in. It's there, it's inside of you. It's just what we need to do to pull it back out.
This is wonderful because I just had a conversation like this when I was on a podcast yesterday, and it's about being your own expert and knowing intuitively what it is that you need and having that self-awareness, which actually segues beautifully into one of the things that you specialize in, and that is in intuition. So you actually, it was almost like that you weren't listening to that part of you, but then when it finally, you gave it the opportunity to come out, but the environment had to be correct. It had to be a safe environment where you could just find your own path. So talk about that, because I think that's fascinating.
It's been a journey. So in between leaving the dance world and finding that moment again, I mean, we all evolve. I've evolved. I became very passionate about massage. I was on the massage therapy state board in Massachusetts for a while. I became a massage instructor. Next step in my career, I became director of education at a massage school. And unfortunately, I lost myself even more. And I went into burnout mode. And I ended up leaving that position. And leaving that was the beginning of when I could start breaking that shell again and finding me again and finding time with myself and listening to what not always my mind, but what my heart and for me, and more importantly, my body and my movement were telling me I needed. I had started martial arts already at that point, but I was still on the martial side of it. I hadn't bridged into the art. I hadn't let that part of myself meet that other part of myself. And it was a process, but got to give yourself grace and not let it happen.
So I'm really curious because you're obviously a very creative person, as well as a person who just lives to move. Movement is life. And do you think that maybe because that part of you was squelched and put into something that was a little bit more, a lot more structured, the curriculum, and people like that really don't seem to thrive in that sort of environment?
I thought it was what was right for my career, but you are 100% correct. I have always said I am not a 9-to-5 person. I am not a work in an office environment person, but I thought that's what my career needed, wanted, and I followed that path. And it didn't end up working the way, it actually did end up working the way it was supposed to.
Right. Because you found out, I'm not going to say you climbed off that corporate ladder, because it kind of was the educational whatever ladder. You didn't, but you did. You got off of it before you fell off of it.
Yep.
And crashed
Absolutely.
and burned.
Yep.
So it is interesting because I'm a dancer that ended up in martial arts, and my story is a lot different from yours. So I would like to hear how you made that transition, and then to talk about, like you said, you got the martial part down pretty well, but when it came to the art, it took a while for that to kind of click for you. So talk about that a little bit.
So my finding of the martial arts world came through my children. My oldest son, who is now 15, started martial arts at about 4.5 years old.
Wow.
And I would sit and watch, and he would come home and he would teach us, but it was his thing. We let him start developing his passion for it. His younger brother started a couple years later. Both have since earned their first degree junior black belts. As I watched them, I always loved watching the movements, and in my head, I'd be breaking them down in the dance world, breaking them down, deconstructing them, reconstructing them, playing with them in my own mind. And it was interesting because I used to do that with dance. And now I was starting to do it with their forms and their katas and their different weapons they were choosing and stuff. Our karate school evolved and a new owner came in. And as again, I was watching a lot, and I really enjoyed the way he showed his passion for martial arts through his students and to his students. He had announced he was going to start an adult program. So I'm all game. I'll give it a try. I came home and told my husband I was interested in trying martial arts. And he said he wasn't going to be the only one in the house not doing it. So he also joined us. And that's now 5.5 years ago. And since then, we've evolved even more at the karate school, and we are now co-owners, and we both have earned our first degree black belts, and it's a process.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful family plan. And I guess for your husband, he really had to level the playing field.
I mean, yeah, he wasn't going to be the only one in the house. He does have, he had a background in mixed martial arts and boxing. He had a very good friend of him who was a mixed martial arts professional fighter that he used to help train with. So he was going back and revisiting that part of him. And I was discovering this whole new side of me. I mean, because I'd been doing dance since I was so young, those movements were so natural. And here I am in the karate school, and I go into a horse dance, and my horse dance is second position. And that's not the most stable position to be standing in with your feet turned out in that way. And so I had to kind of retrain. I'd go to do a kick and I'd have beautiful high kicks, but that's not what we want right away in martial arts. We need to learn how to control it and get the power behind it. So it was interesting how having to find that. So I think that's where the martial came in first for me, because I had to disconnect from my body's training, my natural movement that dance had become. And I had to retrain some of the stuff. So that's where I think that martial and dance and art disconnect came from. Then as I started working through forms and I started discovering what I like from martial arts, because as martial artists, we all like different aspects of it. I started discovering, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If I flow this like I used to do in dance, like when I do transitions between my stances, I find myself, I'm like, oh, that was a rond de jambe. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I already know how to do that. Okay. I can transition between stances a lot differently than my husband, who did all the other different types of martial arts. So it's really interesting. I just recently started training to teach Tai Chi.
Oh, wow.
Within like 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I started that. I am incredibly excited because I feel like I finally found the movement I was meant to be doing. It is such a combination of my meditation, my yoga, my dance, and my martial arts that it's hard, but it's my body so far really enjoys moving in those manners.
Well, I always tell my clients, that Tai Chi is the mother lode of health and wellness and fitness. And if they want to try anything, the first thing to do is to look into Tai Chi. I took one Tai Chi class because I thought, maybe I'll just add that to my repertoire. And it wasn't a good fit. It just didn't resonate with me, but I've done a little bit here and there. with one of my ballet teachers actually had a very strong Tai Chi background. And it's fascinating. And when you can use that with the martial art that you're studying, you're even more powerful, but softer.
Yeah, it's really, I was doing in one of our adult classes, I was demonstrating one of the sequences I had learned. And one of the gentlemen in the class he's new to our style of karate, but he's been in the martial arts world for 18 years. I was moving and he's like, holy, I've never seen a martial artist. He's like, she has this grace that is just, and I'm like, that's when it kind of clicked. And I was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be doing it. So it's been another evolution.
Well, everything is evolving. And that is just, it's fascinating because I think when people think of martial arts, they just think of punch, kick, grunt, groan. But there is so much grace and elegance, especially in the connecting moves, just like dance. You don't really pay attention to, you're looking at the big, attitude, the big arabesque, those beautiful pirouettes. You don't see the in between, but it's the in between that really makes those powerful moves even more spectacular. And
absolutely. I think with the level of grace in everything we do, those strong, powerful moves can stand out a little differently. The contrast that it creates. I mean, if you're all power, good for you. I'm amazed when people can be all power, but if you're a balance of grace, power, and stuff, I mean, that's just a different style altogether to watch.
Right. Well, my sensei and the style that I take is Ninpo Taijutsu. It's based on the art of the ninja, and it's not very well known. It's kind of an obscure ancient art. But my sensei, he's tall and lanky. So you don't look at him and think, well, he can take somebody down. You just don't think of it. But when you see him move, and he moves with such grace, but strength and power, that it's to see him, going from his street clothes and then get onto the mat. It's like, wow, the transformation is incredible. So learning from someone like that, and the way he teaches too is by using your structure and understanding like my frame and my background. And I'll never forget, there was one particular technique that I was struggling with over and over and over again. And finally he came up to me and he looked and he said, Cheryl, think of it like a waltz. And I'm like, a waltz? And he says, yeah. He says, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, down 2, 3. And it was like, it was effortless. And I said to him, why didn't you tell me that, months ago?
Light bulb moment.
Yeah, exactly. So with all of this, the martial arts, the intuition, the yoga, the meditation, all of this you have put together in something called the Wellness Path. Is that correct?
Yes, that is the name of my business. It's the Wellness Path. My motto, my saying is everyone's path to wellness is different. Let me help you find the right path for you.
And what I find fascinating about the Wellness Path is that you found your way or your path to the wellness path through COVID.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. How did that come about?
So being in the wellness world, you're always hearing different people's translations of what the word wellness means. 9 times out of 10, we hear wellness is drink more water. Wellness is eating properly. Wellness is this, wellness is that. To me, wellness is all that and then some. Right at the beginning of COVID, I live in Massachusetts. We went into lockdown in March of 2020. I was faced with the fact that massage therapy was going to be very different as we knew it. I spent some time grieving. I think we all did. And then I realized no better time than now to take a look inward. And I started taking a couple courses here and there online. I took a meditation course. I've always been fascinated with crystals, and I took a crystal healing course. And it really started waking up my mind, waking up my intuition even more, following what I felt right. I started a group on Facebook because I was sick and tired of seeing all the negativity. And I called it the Wellness Path Positivity Project.
Nice.
And it's a group of women, like-minded women who chat about crystals, talk about different things that are in our wellness toolbox. And as I talk with these women about what belongs, what can be a part of their toolbox, my toolbox is growing.
Mm-hmm.
My experiences are growing. About a month before COVID struck, I began an event at our dojo called Mojo at the Dojo.
Oh, I love that.
It's a women's only event. It's 2 hours long. It's actually tonight, where I go in. We spend an hour doing some sort of physical activity. Our first event was punching and kicking bags because it's about the release.
Right.
And then we do some sort of lesson, some sort of group coaching session during it, whether we're talking about self-forgiveness, self-compassion, creativity, vitality, all different topics. And then we finish the evening with a relax, with a nice guided meditation that I guide everyone through. And it's an amazing opportunity to spend time with like-minded women. Unfortunately, the day that Massachusetts went into lockdown was supposed to be my second event.
Oh.
So I had to put that on hold. I tried a couple virtually, but that's just not how those were meant to happen.
No.
And I was extremely excited. In May of 2021, I relaunched Mojo at the Dojo. And at first, because of restrictions and stuff, I was holding 2 a month so that I could accommodate all the women, and things are releasing a little bit. So now I'm back to 1 a month and growing that and exposing women to different, we talk about chakras, we talk about finding time for ourselves. We dive deep into the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, what does that really mean? Why are we where we are? And I help women but refine that inner magic, that little girl, that spark, that joy, that passion. And I focus mainly on women because, well, that's what I am. So I can relate differently. We can understand things without even needing to say it. There's a language without speaking that we can all take part in. And it's been an amazing ride. The path has been winding. It's got a little bumps here and there. And I've definitely, over the year and a half, now I think it's a year and a half, I don't even know anymore. Timeline is all messed up. I've definitely watched some amazing women see what the rest of us have been seeing all this time. They've just forgotten or lost. And it's been fun. It's not ending anytime soon.
Well, what an incredible program that you're offering, and an incredible service for women at any point, in life, but especially in this time where we're now transitioning out of the pandemic. And I mean, things have been, like you said, I don't know what year it is, I always define it by, BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID, because it's like that time in between was definitely a time warp. And we all went into survival mode and trying to do whatever we could just to get through another day or the next shoe to drop or whatever. It really took a lot out of all of us. But I think especially women, because we are the caregivers, we're the nurturers, and we're the ones that are so good at beating ourselves up when things aren't going well, right?
And putting ourselves on the back burner and forgetting that our little needs.
Yeah, little needs.
Our little needs are just as important as everybody else's and stuff. Yeah, we lose that focus.
So that ties into the burnout, because you yourself experienced burnout when you were doing the teaching and everything in your massage career. And you do work with women on how to either prevent and to recover from burnout.
Yeah. Hindsight's 2020 for me. I didn't know what the signs and symptoms of burnout could be. Now I know my personal signs and symptoms, and I can help women see that, yeah, their burnout might not be the same as mine, but there could be a parallel. There could be something that all of a sudden they go, oh, I'm starting down the path of not wellness. So yeah, I need to flip the switch. With me, I love my sleep. And I was starting to get 5 hours of sleep at night. And I'm like, no lie, like 8 to 9 hours is what I enjoy. And I need to function. And it was really starting. And I love food.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not taking time to enjoy those things. I would eat lunch at my desk in my office. I would wake up, school started at 9 a.m. I would be at the school sometimes by 7 to just do. And then being mom in the night and karate school. So imagine what time I'm finally winding down. It was just, like I said, hindsight 2020. Mm-hmm. Now I can say to women, I'll never say to them, anyone, you're in burnout mode. Mm-hmm. I will ask you the questions that make you realize what you're going through right now. How are your boundaries? Are you setting boundaries? Do boundaries even exist with you? Because when I was going through burnout, the beginning phase, all boundaries were gone. Mm-hmm. I was at a karate tournament with my son in Maine, and I was getting emails from the school and I was answering them.
Oh.
Instead of focusing on the amazing energy that is part of a karate tournament. Mm-hmm. It just became that. And that's not, and I started realizing that's not me. Mm-hmm. I'm not nice anymore. Mm-hmm. I am not myself anymore. I am short fused. I'm having a temper, and that is not me. I try to remain very positive in life, which can be difficult at times. And at that point in time, it was very difficult. I mean, I'm positive, but I am a little bit of a complainer. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you're normal. That's like, we all have to kind of just blow off some steam every now and again, right?
And the complaining took over.
Yeah.
So if I can help another woman stop it in its tracks, mm-hmm. or start the recovery process, start loving yourself again, paying attention to yourself. I didn't flip the switch entirely. Like I didn't 100% put all the attention on myself, because I can't, as a mom, as a wife, as the type of person I am, but reminding them that, yeah, for this amount of time, for 2 hours on a Friday evening, once a month, you can focus on you. You can release all that stuff. And by teaching them things that can go in their toolbox, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, movement, just turn the radio on and move. Mm-hmm. How much better do you feel? You've already broken that cycle. You're already bringing yourself back. So the more women I can reach and help, the more fulfilled I will feel in life.
Perfect. Beautiful. Great tips, great advice, beautifully said. And I want to go back to the very beginning when you were starting to talk about this, is that you would never look at a woman and say, you are in burnout. That is the definition of a true healer that can just help somebody discover their own path through self-awareness, through self-acceptance and self-love, and taking away that judgment. Because again, as women especially, we are so good at judgment and criticizing ourselves when things don't go the way that we expect that they are supposed to.
Absolutely. It was like when I was a massage therapist, my clients never would hear me say the word relax. Uh-huh. You hear the word relax, you tighten up.
Exactly.
So there was other ways to make them understand that it was time to relax, whether it was turn the music up louder, pause my movement, or whatever it was that I needed to do, but I would never speak those words. Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the crystals, because I always find that fascinating. I had a lady on a few weeks ago, and she was into the crystals and explained a little bit to me as well. And of course, I was trained very Western medicine mindset, was a respiratory therapist for 17 years, and then got my master's in PT. but it was in that transition somewhere between the two that I'm like, wait a minute, there's a lot of different ways to look at things. And there's a lot more things out there that other people say voodoo. And now I say magical, mystical, and incredibly beneficial alternative type of self-care tools out there. And one of them is crystals. And so just talk about that a little bit. I stalked you earlier today and looked at your website. It's a beautiful website. And I saw the crystals of the month. So if you could explain a little bit more about that, I would love it.
So to me, crystals are just another form of energy. Everything in the world is made of some sort of energies, and crystals are just an extension of that to me. Each crystal has its own meaning, its own definition behind it, its own energy it brings to the playing field. Mm-hmm. The crystals of the month that you saw, I have a monthly subscription box that I make and create every month. And it's called the Magic Ritual Box. And it's designed around a crystal of the month. I'm currently working on the carnelian box. Carnelian is all about creativity, courage, vitality. Ooh. Most of the time, it's this beautiful shade of orange. And when you think orange, those are all the feelings I feel it brings up. So each item in the box is then designed with those intention words. Mm-hmm. So I'm creating one is it's either a body scrub or a soak. You can use it either way. And it's scented with orange. Mm-hmm. Orange is a very uplifting, empowering, creativity type scent. In it is also other items such as I did a diffuser oil this time so that people can put it in their diffuser and blend and have it go through the house and things like that. But I teach a little bit along in the box. So the ritual part of it is every month I handwrite a ritual that uses every single item in the box. And it's that self-care, that self-love, that take a break for you. Mm-hmm. Follow these steps in this order. That's just my suggestion, but at least it's teaching us to go through a routine. To me, the word ritual is interchangeable with routine. Mm-hmm. And it's just making us hit the pause button for a little bit and take some time out.
So I really want to emphasize what you're saying is that you have this list, this ritual of things to do, but it doesn't have to be exactly follow these rules, because nope. I think that's what people get hung up. They have to do it exactly this way. But these are suggestions. They're invitations for women to explore.
It's what came to mind as I was creating it. So I wanted to share it. But if it's not what speaks to you when you open the box or see the items, then you do what your intuition is telling you to do.
Now, are you working on October, or, do you work on the upcoming month and you do list it by, this is, February, March, April, May?
Yep. So right now, currently, I am working on the October boxes. Mm-hmm. The invoices for the month have gone out, so I'm not taking any more orders for this particular month. Mm-hmm. And actually the October box marks the 1 year that I have been making the boxes. Oh, so wow. That's super exciting and humbling all at the same time. And as soon as the invoices go through, I go into mass production mode and I start assembling all the boxes. And as soon as the boxes are assembled, I give myself a day or two and I will be then in on the November box.
Wow.
The November crystal of the month is celestite, mm-hmm. which talks about dreams and angelic communications Ooh. And different things. So I'm kind of lining up the essential oils that I want to use and the scents that I want to come through for the box and going from there. It's a process every month, but it's a process that I very much have grown to. I love it. Mm-hmm. I embrace it. There's days that I'm like, I'm just not going to work on the box today. Uh-huh. And that's okay, because I have other days that I get to work on it.
Well, you're using your intuition, telling you what you're really ready to accomplish for that day. If you're just not feeling it, you're not feeling it. And then the energy going into the creation of the box just won't be the same.
It's not the energy I want. person to open the box and feel. Exactly.
Right. How can the listeners get a hold of you? Where can they find you? So give us your website and some of the other links. I'll have it on the description, of course, but I do like for my guests to be able to have an opportunity to say it and kind of give a little description.
So my website is thewellnesspathwwc.com. You can find me on Facebook, The Wellness Path WWC. Instagram, the same thing, The Wellness Path WWC. I recently did that to make it easier. And also on Facebook, I have that group. It's called The Wellness Path Positivity Project, where we talk about all things wellness, a few things witchy, and plants, and all sorts of fun things.
So are you into herbs as well?
Yes.
I kind of figured. Okay. So do you have any final words of wisdom or pearls of wisdom that you would like to drop on the listeners, or any last tips or advice or suggestions?
I guess my biggest thing I want is, where I call myself a finder of magic, I want everybody to realize we're all magic, and you can define the word magic however you need to. I prefer the word magic, but we all have this spark. We all have this light. We all have this energy. We all have this something inside us that we have to share with the world. Sometimes we forget what that is, or we become disconnected from it. Take time and reconnect and re-find and let that out, because especially right now, the world needs more of that.
Mm-hmm. Amen, sister. It sure does. Well, Mindy, thank you so much for being on the show. I have really thoroughly enjoyed having you. I think you're just amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our time.
And everybody, thank you so much for listening. And do check out Mindy's Facebook group and her website. It is a beautiful website. You can find a lot of incredible information and tools there. And remember to practice self-awareness, self-love, self-care, and find your own magic. And that is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.